there were a couple news items this week about tours this summer. The Black Keys canceled, or at least postponed. They canceled their tour, and it sounds like they're going to reschedule it in a different manner.
Yeah, they canceled the arenas, and it sounds like they're going to play some smaller venues.
And then you had sent along an item about 311 canceling some foreign
Some
overseas dates.
European dates as well. They were playing like Germany, maybe Poland, somewhere over there. And yeah, they put out a message saying basically the tour was not financially feasible for them, I believe was the way they phrased it. And so they weren't going to play those. They did keep, I believe, most, if not all of their American dates. But yeah, and like some of the festival dates they were playing, they kept those. It was just some of the European shows.
So what do you make of kind of this round of cancellations? It certainly
Yeah.
feels a little bit foreign compared to what we were used to coming off the pandemic,
hmm
where it seemed like they could charge whatever they wanted and people would gobble up tickets to any show possible. Um, I and I'll let you go, of course, but I can't figure out if this is related to the overall market, if it's more related to these particular groups, maybe a combination of both. But where does your head go?
I saw on Twitter somebody posted a screenshot they did right before the tour was canceled of the floor availability, or the floor plan with the availability. And man, like it looked like 90% of the seats were available. I'm not sure which arena it was. This is for the Black Keys. But there was a lot of seats available. So my first instinct was, well, maybe this is just, a couple bands who used to be able to play huge venues that, you know, Black Keys have not had a hit in quite a while, and maybe, some of their popularity is waning a little bit. But when you see that many open seats, I think it's more than that. I think it's hard not to look at it as also a pricing issue. And particularly, again, it's one thing to pay $100 to see the Black Keys in a smaller venue where you're going to be on the floor,
A theater.
versus paying $100 to be way up in the top deck of an arena for a two-person band. I don't know how well that translates. But the thing that really got me thinking about this was when we talked about our experience with trying to buy Pearl Jam tickets, and we talked about the fact that the market was telling us that people were still willing to pay insane prices. Pearl Jam's tickets are outrageously expensive, and they also sold out in an instant. And you see this with a lot of big, headlining acts. They're charging exorbitant prices right now for these tours, and people seemed to be buying them. But I wonder if the first signs of this starting to shift is happening with some of these smaller bands. Like, say what you will about Pearl Jam's popularity in like the general public, but it's still like an attraction. When Pearl Jam comes to town, it's a name that's going to get a lot of people interested in just as an event, and they carry the legacy of being, a great live rock band, and there's just not that many left. And so I think for a lot of people, they're willing to spend a little bit more. But for maybe some of these smaller, mid-sized bands, I think we're starting to maybe see where people look at it as, hey, I went on a spending frenzy after COVID lockdowns. I went to every concert I could. And now, we've been dealing with inflation, and, maybe things are getting tight for people's budgets. And they're just saying, you know what, I'm just not going to frivolously spend on concerts anymore.
So there are a couple thoughts that go through my head. Number one, somebody else on Twitter had pointed out that the get-in price for the Black Keys was $100. And as you said, to have premium tickets at $100 or more, and obviously on up. If you're going to be in the
Yeah.
first 5 rows, you're going to pay a lot more than $100 for pretty much any show in America. But the idea that we have a big outdoor theater pavilion type venue. If somebody is going and they're going to sit in the upper bowl of a basketball arena, or they're going to sit on the lawn, their get-in price can't be $100. It just can't be. It might be 50 or 60 plus fees, so you could be looking at 70 or 80. But I think that $100 barrier for the worst seats in a basketball arena is just another level. Unless you've got so much pent up demand because you disappeared for a long period of time, like Rage Against the Machine, or you're Bruce Springsteen or Pearl Jam. Because the other thought that I had is, I was thinking about, well, what are some of the other big tours this year? And you've got the National grouping up with the War on Drugs to do their tour. Um, if they want to play those big venues, the National's huge, they're
Mhm.
big, um, but they're grouping up with another relatively large attraction in order to pull off that tour. So that was one thought. And then, the contrary to that is a couple years ago when Smashing Pumpkins and Jane's Addiction toured basketball arenas together here in Cleveland. They were playing on the trick or treating night on Halloween, and they had to sell their tickets on Groupon because they just couldn't sell. And maybe that was a Halloween thing, but even sometimes grouping up two bands like Smashing Pumpkins and Jane's Addiction is not enough to justify the price. I guess the bottom line is the economics of touring, unless you're Taylor Swift, Pearl Jam, or um,
I think you have like,
Bruce Springsteen, it's really difficult.
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think, Metallica, they're still
Metallica,
selling out big arenas. U2 could probably sell out a lot of places still, I would
Olivia
imagine.
Rodrigo,
Yeah, yeah, definitely some pop artists. I'm sure Adele can sell massive venues still. But yeah, the whole teaming up thing is definitely interesting. I think we're just in a weird space right now where I think when bands want to book a tour, maybe it's hard to even know, like, how do you balance that, like what size venue do you play versus the what do you charge for the tickets. And in a lot of cases, the bands don't have all that much say in what they can charge for tickets. And this kind of ties into, the lawsuit, the Department of Justice suing Live Nation and Ticketmaster, because though a lot of times these prices are driven by Live Nation and Ticketmaster, and you have a certain barrier that you have to hit just to make money. And I you think about a band like Pearl Jam, there's 5 guys in the band, plus Josh Klinghoffer tours with them, Boom Gasper still tours with them. So you got 7 guys playing every night. You've got who knows how many road crew is with them, and you got to pay all those people. So when you're paying out all these salaries and you got to pay for logistics and transportation and all of that, and then you have to pay 50% of your ticket prices to Live Nation and Ticketmaster. Like, I do understand where that crunch comes in for these artists. And so, it's sort of a tricky thing, for the Black Keys. I'm not trying to minimize it, but, it's a little bit different when you've only got 2 guys in the band, I suppose. But I think for them that probably played into the economics of it a little bit when they needed to downsize the venue, that, you do have fewer mouths that you're feeding, I suppose.
but ultimately, I think they made a mistake in pricing. I think
Yeah,
that's really what it comes down to. And I'm looking right now at the National and the War on Drugs are coming to Blossom Music Center here in Cuyahoga Falls, and the get-in price on the lawn for 2 tickets is $113. So 50 some bucks a piece. And I think that makes a lot of sense. If if it would be $200 for my wife and me to go see the Black Keys, that's a totally different ball game
yeah,
on the lawn. Um,
yeah.
so yeah,
I
it's interesting.